very much. So I'm going to step back here a minute. When Margaret gets on, I'd just like to go around and have everybody introduce themselves and who you are and what you do in town so that she knows who we are. So we'll do that. And I was going to ask her to address each of these points. And the question that I had, which I did send to Beth probably late last night, was can we, in the grant, request funds for engineering services? So that's the question that I have. So that then perhaps, since Adria, you've been with us for this purpose, because we cannot, I don't know if anybody read the frequently asked questions, but we cannot expend any funds until we are actually awarded the grant. And so I'm hopeful that we will be awarded the grant and that we could engage Weston and Sampson, Adria, for help with, it looks like her concern is the bike lanes and the crosswalks. I think the signage is probably fine. And that we can do that with our town DPW, which we don't have, but we do have cemetery and parks, and we do have highway. So anyway, so I guess I was just going to, when Margaret gets on, go through each of her questions and concerns. If you haven't done it already, go to Kittleson and Associates and look at her bio. She works with, we picked a good one, and it was kind of random. I didn't go through and look at each of the 6 people up on the MassDOT website. But she's pedestrian, walkways, and biking. So it looks like she's a good fit for the things that we're trying to do. So anybody have anything to say about that? And Beth will take over at 11 o'clock because I have to go to another Zoom at 11 o'clock. So, but Adria, I wanted this time because I thought she would be on at 10, and I wanted to fit the time when it would fit into your schedule. So.
Well, I really appreciate everyone's flexibility in making time for these meetings, because I know it's hard with scheduling. And in answer to your earlier point, I can say that we definitely have many engineers and designers on staff who could design and stamp plans in answer to the question from Margaret. Okay. All right. As long as we are able to put that in the grant as an ask. So, all right. The other thing is, if you haven't done it yet, go to the Winter Shared Streets and Spaces and just click on the application. The application process is entirely online. So there are a series of questions that need to be answered. And looking through that, one of the questions that they ask is proximity to schools for the project and walkability to schools. And we fit that perfectly, I think, with everything that we're doing. What we don't have is a lot of documents or previously prepared engineering plans for all of this. But at least it helps, at least me, to know going forward, if we're applying for these sorts of grants, these are the things that we as a town need to be thinking of and making sure we have on file. So I was thinking for documents, Joan, the Squanicook Greenways engineering plan that Bill sent me, maybe some of that for thought process that have gone into this. The Complete Streets application that Jim sent me this morning, I haven't looked at it yet, but perhaps some of that. I don't know what else. Any thoughts on that?
Veronica, would the recent grant for the town common sidewalks have any site plans available? I haven't looked at it yet.
Jim, I see you're on this. You could probably answer that better than me.
I was on the call but not listening. I apologize. I was just emailing Adria the complete street material from 2018 just so she can eyeball what that was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question?
It has to do with the sidewalks. Do we have any engineering plans for that or any documents about the common sidewalks that are in process?
We do. It's pretty basic because, again, they're not held to a DOT standard because they're internal to a town park. So I don't know that there's going to be much value when trying to extrapolate from that level of kind of back of the envelope engineering to what the standards are for DOT. However, I think they're probably, and I'll dig a little bit, but I think we probably have a file on hand from when the engineering work was done probably back in 07, 08, best memory from last time I looked at it, when we were looking at going from the center of town originally to the school, and then it was chopped back, I think probably just to Sterilite, but I think there was some engineering done on that, so I'll see if I can pull that doc up.
Okay. I will say that our crosswalk placement on our map, there are at least 3 places, one going from the common parking lot across the road on the Congregational Church side. There are already, like dips down to the road. I don't know what they're officially called for taking a stroller or a wheelchair across. So the curbing is already there. And in another place that we looked at, I think it's going from the Methodist Church over to the Common. On the Common side, the sidewalk there dips down. So when you put the crosswalk in, that's already in place. And it seems to be that we have those dips where we have fire hydrants. Because in the third location, I think, was from Evans going over to the Methodist Church at Howard Street across School Street. There's a fire hydrant there as well, and things seem to dip down at that. I don't know if that was intentional by the town, if there's anything that shows why the sidewalks were put in that way, which is a good thing. But do we have anything on that? Like, why did we do that? It was a good thought, but why was it done? And it seems to be near fire hydrants. Just happened.
It could be not a cause and effect, but they're both due to the same cause, such as convenience for the construction.
Mm-hmm.
And I can reach out to Ed Kukula, who was the superintendent at the time, and pick his brain on that. So I can send him a quick email. He's in Boxborough now.
Right.
I've done a couple things before. He's very responsive. So I'll see if he has any information. I did just pull up the Route 119 sidewalk information, and all we have on file is a quote from Ross and Associates to actually do the engineering, but no engineering was ever done.
Okay. All right. So those were my 2 things from reading through her questions. I did request that the grant be put on the BOS agenda for discussion on our upcoming meeting on Tuesday, February 2nd. So, and Jim said maybe we should call that a community engagement. Put that in the, for discussion, that could be a place where we, talk more and try to have people come into the meeting, because it's virtual. It's way easier to come into virtual meetings than to get yourself out of the house at dinner time to go to town hall. So anyway, so look at the agenda and advertise that. I'm sorry.
The planning board is meeting on February 8th. I can ask the chair as well if you would like to have that on the agenda for discussion for another opportunity for public engagement.
That would be good. Let me just look at February 8th here.
Monday, February 8th.
All right. I have a land trust meeting that night, but I'll do what I can to be in there as well.
I would have to ask Chairman McNally.
Yeah. Sounds good. So anybody else have anything on the map or the abstract? I will tell you that the railroad signs are wrong. When I was writing the abstract, I looked at the map, which I made with Dennis's help, and I looked for R instead of X for the railroad signs. So I said 2 railroad signs, the R's, which is exactly where the bike racks are. Because anyway, so the X is for railroad sign, and I need to change that. There are actually 3 of them, and they're up. All 3 are up on the northern end of the common.
If I can, I just want to follow up on that. One thing with community engagement, I'm happy to do a flyer. We know that, Dave is actually doing some survey work for the other grants, but I think we can maybe piggyback that and throw out some surveys on our various social media sites as well, including, any cycling groups that we have in this area, the Squanicook River Runners. We've got, I've got mine, which is We Run Country Roads. We've got the Townsend Library ones that we can put up surveys there, as well as flyers for community engagement, asking those, its ideas, concerns, and preferences for what we're doing for that community engagement. And then, we can pop up blogs, the health and well-being of the town. How do trails do that? How does bike lanes, cycling, outdoor? So adding those sort of in and just sort of getting that, it's like a passive conversation would be good.
One thing to be cautious on that, Emmy, is with such a tight timeline,
yeah.
I think instead of asking questions in a survey about what people might want, because that might generate a variety of different options that aren't currently contemplated in the application, that is really we're going to be asking people, they're going to tell us what they want, and then we're going to do something different perhaps. So it's a little dangerous, I think, to with such a limited window to do that. Perhaps it should be, instead of the survey, more just informational. This is what the rough plan looks like. What do you thought?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that we would necessarily want to do yes, no's, mark it from 1 to 5s, whatever. I mean, I know when we did it for National Fitness Campaign, it took quite some time to get that rallied all up. So it definitely is a time. Thank you so much, Jim. I agree. Something, again, informational may be better. Ronnie, especially since you did such a good job with the map work, maybe just, sort of simplifying it a little bit and again, attaching it to those blogs about health and wellness, and attaching it to the information that Jen has from conservation about, the safety and the benefits of these land areas and access to them, safety access to them. I've got a couple of really good things I actually pulled out of from the Beltway in Atlanta, Georgia, the Beltline. So the other is I did get information from Jim Smith about signage, and there's a couple of companies that Townsend already uses. They do custom signs, regular signs. There's a bazillion different kinds. I think it's going to be a matter of just deciding on what we want our vision to look like. And I think Emily touched on this, and using, like, for the trails, like the universal signs that all the trails have, those block figures, what have you, because we want everybody to recognize what we're looking at. But then we need to look something custom if we're for the railroad signs. We need to look for something a little more custom, as well as the are you here? So I do have the contacts that Jim has. So I've reached out to Ray with Permaline, and I just pulled up the one for Custom Products Corporation, and I don't have a contact for that yet, but Jim said he was going to drop off the information in my mailbox. So I'll do the same thing and reach out and sort of give them our vision and see if they can give us an idea of what we'd be looking at to do that.
That would be great. That would be
Does that
great.
work?
Yeah.
Okay. On that today then.
Jen, I see your hand is up.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I just, Veronica, did you get the email? I literally just forwarded you an email at the start of the meeting. I had reached out. So just a little background on me. I lived in Cambridge for 11 years and I bike commuted, and I'm very familiar with the Minuteman Trail. And I just had a few like just a different perspective on, the ins and outs of things that work and things that don't. And I reached out, Cambridge actually has an environment and bike infrastructure department. And I reached out to them and they got back to me, and I forwarded you the email, and they had a lot of insight into placement of bike racks, placement of different sort of types of bike lanes and bike repair kiosks. They got a grant for $12,000 that they used to install 8 bicycle kiosks, and they had some really insightful feedback on vandalism and usefulness of placement and stuff like that. And in the email, the woman even said that she would be happy to go on a meeting with us and answer any questions we might have about stuff like that.
That's very nice of her. Thank you for getting that. Did you send that just to me, Jen, or did you send it to the whole group?
No, I sent it just to you, but I can send it to the group if you'd like. Do people want me to be filtering things, or should we be sending to everybody? I don't know. Maybe I should just decide. Send it to me. I'll forward it to Joan. It's bikes. I'll send it to Joan. What do you think, Joan?
I think we should send it to everybody, because that way you don't have to filter. We can. I think if whoever takes the time to look at something, they're looking at it. The more we all have for information, I think the better.
And then what I will do for our next meeting is I'll write an agenda. I'll take what comes in and I'll put each of those things on the agenda so we can have time so we have a specific place where we can discuss that.
Great. But I do have one thing, on the bike racks. I didn't see it on the map. It could be there and I missed it, but I think we should have a bike rack certainly at the head of every rail trail where there's parking, because I know from personal experience, what do? You park your car, you get out, you need to put your bike somewhere while you're getting your water bottle and your gear together and whatever. And I didn't see bike racks.
And maybe we should have one at Depot Street.
Yeah.
I'm relying on Joan for Joan Walkowitz for all of this. So, because she's the bike person, not that we all aren't, but for the rail trail. So maybe then I'll get an R added at Depot Street, right there where hopefully the parking will be going in eventually.
Right. Thank you.
I have one more ask for February vacation, which is February 15th through 19th. I want to set a series of morning walks for families if they want to join us. Max of about an hour. I want to do our park. I want to do Old Meeting House Park, the blue line for your land use off of Old Meeting House Park, as well as Adams Dam area. And freebie out of Townsend Rec, I'm going to have a conversation about it, what we're looking to do, nature, grab some stuff for the kids always to craft with. I've got some really cute, fun things attached to that. But I would love some of you that are, conservation or land use to join on in with me and do those walks maybe, so it's not just me hanging.
I would be happy to do that, Emmy. I want to add one. Actually, there are 2 other walks that the Land Trust has, Blue Blaze Trails. One is behind Pheasant Ridge, the trails there, and on Clement, a really, really nice stream. It's a short walk. They're all mile and a half max. So
Okay,
they aren't long, but they are blue blazed and easily followed.
So Pheasant Ridge, and where's the other one?
It's Clement Road, the Miko and John Aho Nature Trail. And we have all 3 of our, we have GPS maps for them. I can send you.
Okay, that'd be awesome,
maps.
and that'd be great. Maybe we can get together, figure out timing for that. Jenny, and I just curiosity there. You want to maybe hit Adams Dam area with us, because you're with it being right there.
Absolutely. Anybody that wants a tour of Adams Dam, I'm very familiar with it, and I'm more than happy to take a nice stroll anytime.
Okay, awesome sauce. Joan?
Joan S. or Joan W.
For Howard Park,
Oh, you're gonna Howard Park with me?
if you like.
Love it.
I'm gonna get T-shirts made that says "You're on mute."
Yeah, like I said, any of you guys that want to help out, I'm going to put some times together. I'm going to post it out on our site. And again, this is a part of that community engagement. Although it's passive, we're not going to be specifically saying, hey, come to this because we're doing this. But hey, Hidden Gems of Townsend, did you know? And again, if I attach some cute craft bag stuff for the kids coming off of it and the information that you guys have, because this is your purvey, that would be, I think it would just be exceptional for them.
That's lovely. Thank you, Emmy. And we'll join in. You'll see us at some point.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So would any of what MRPC did with the trails inventory, would that constitute as any kind of community involvement?
I know I attended their meetings when they were updating. Oh, you mean for the trails for the, maybe that would. I know that I attended, Ray Jackson and I went to a meeting in Gardner when they were putting together the new map, the new trail inventory map. And I attended a second one as well. And the map is pretty good. I know I provided the GPS information for the 3 Blue Blaze Land Trust trails in town to MRPC. So they are part of that map inventory. I don't know. I mean, I could talk to Sherry. She's on our mailing now for Winter Shared Streets and Spaces. I could talk to Sherry Bean and see if she has attendance or anything from the
I went to one in the selectman's office, and there were quite a few people there. You know, one thing I learned, like when you put together these kind of grant applications, for each question, you sort of need, I call it ammunition, you know, you need a good story, you need some good proof, and you start to accumulate that stuff, and then you sort of prioritize it. Maybe we don't need that because we have something better, you know? So maybe you grab your 2 or 3 best arguments.
Mm-hmm. So no, that's a good suggestion. So I'll contact Sherry and see if she has anything on those meetings. They were about, what, 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, or maybe more. Time seems to go.
Yeah.
At one of our at my meeting last night, someone said, well, last year was an extra long year, so it doesn't count.
Yeah.
We also had several meetings for the rail trail, but I'm not sure we can really draw the correlation there.
Right.
Just to add to the list for consideration as part of the MVP report process and all of the engagement events tied to that last year, the 3 stakeholder webinars, the public listening session. We did hear conversations about walkability, about cycling, about sidewalks, and all of that information was documented in the plan along with sort of a summary of the engagement, who attended what meetings and what did we hear from folks. So if that's helpful information to add, we could definitely pull that quickly.
Great.
Yeah, and let me just add to that. May I just add to that? That plan has been approved and it's ready for circulation. So I can certainly email that draft plan to everybody.
That would be great, Beth. Thank you.
Veronica, would, as we speak, I wonder if the preliminary list you made of bike lanes, crosswalks, etc., would you like me to start to flesh that out into, like, let's say, tables? So that might show location, benefits, so that as we collect these ideas during the meeting, we can start hanging them in.
So that might be a good idea, kind of taking the abstract where I've started like listing things out and it's now becoming 3 pages, and make a chart from it. Is that what you're thinking, Joan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
eventually it's probably going to want the GPS coordinates.
It does ask for GPS coordinates on the
And the cost.
application. Mhm.
and put some description. But the biggest thing is probably the benefit. You know, why? Why do we want one here? Because traffic goes from here to here. There's already a curb cut, et cetera.
I think we could also say it enhances walking routes. As
Right.
far as that. Did I put the bike lane along? I left out, I just realized that, the bike lane along School Street to Water Street. I left that out of my abstract.
You
I
did.
think.
There are some things missing, I think. And I think just to formalize it a little more, we'll start to notice.
Yeah, thank you.
The
That
other
would be
thing
great.
is, I wonder if we should start to take this grant application and maybe put it into a Google Doc or something, and just start to put notes in it, so that it's not all on you, Veronica, to keep all these notes and
That would be great if you would like to do that. And then we would all have access to the Google Doc, correct?
yeah,
Yeah, that would be great.
right.
And then hopefully when we go to submit the grant, we could just pull pieces out from that and plug it into the online pieces. So,
Hey, did you all see Eric Chartrand's email come in?
I did not. No.
He said, although still in the planning phase, I think it was wise to include the Historical Commission in the conversation, as they have some jurisdiction here. They have very specific requirements for signs in the bylaws, et cetera.
That is a good point. So add Historical Commission.
Since I'm looking at the sign stuff, do you want me to give a buzz over there and see if I can sort of get those guidelines in advance? And then, obviously we want to invite them to the conversation, but.
Are we talking about the Historical Commission or the Historical Society?
Eric says commission.
Yeah.
Commission is the government.
Society only owns that small group of 3 buildings in the harbor, I think, but the commission has the 2 districts.
Yeah, the
And
Historical.
that would be Struthers, Elisa.
I thought we put her and Alice, didn't we just assign them, Jim, appoint them like the last meeting as alternates to the Historical District Commission, or was that the Cultural Commission?
One was alternate, I believe. One was active full-time, but that was for the commission.
Was it the Historic Commission or was it the Cultural Commission? I don't remember.
Yeah, historic is my recollection, but I actually have the screen I can pull up right now and tell you.
Okay. All right. Let me, maybe I should check email and make sure I didn't get anything. I haven't spent a lot of time on email this morning, so.
District Commission, Veronica.
Historic District Commission. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let me see if I got anything else from Joan, from Margaret. She should be in here soon, I believe. So no, I don't have an addition. I see Eric's. I see Jim from you, the complete streets, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So it's 10:33. She should.
I will say, the Historic District Commission, we, I know for rec, we submitted a sign. My father actually designed it, and he was the architect for the Historic Commission for 10 years when we first joined. He did the sign according to the other signs that were in here, the same colors, the same font work, the whole thing, and they denied it. So that might be tricky. I wasn't even thinking about that in advance, but definitely before I get too far in, I think with the various contract companies for the signs that will be right here in the common, we should definitely pull somebody from the Historic Commission.
That sounds like a good idea. Margaret, welcome. I see you're on the call.
Hi, Margaret.
Can you hear us?
Oh, she's muted.
Yep,
There she
I can
is.
hear you now. Just got my headphones set up.
No problem. Welcome. I thought that we could each introduce ourselves, so I'm going to go around and just say your name the way you are on my screen, just so you know who we are, Margaret. I'm Veronica Kell, and I'm on the Board of Selectmen. So, Joan W.
I'm not on a town board, I'm a civilian, but I am on the board of directors of the National River Watershed Association, and also Squanicook Greenways, the group that's building the Squanicook River Rail Trail in Townsend and Groton, and Townsend's representative on the National Wild and Scenic River Stewardship Council.
Joan S.
Joan Savoy. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for joining us. I'm a citizen, but I'm also the chair of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
And Jim.
My name is Jim Kreidler, and I work as the town administrator here in Townsend.
Emmy, I have you in two places, so let's go to Emmy.
Hi, I'm the recreation director here in Townsend.
And
Welcome.
Adria.
Hi, I'm Adria. I'm a resiliency specialist with Weston & Sampson. I helped the town with their last Mass DOT Shared Streets and Spaces application, as well as their recently completed MVP HMP planning process, which has been approved pending town adoption. So very exciting.
And Jen.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Eaton. I'm on the Townsend Conservation Commission.
And lastly, but not least, Beth.
Good morning. My name is Beth. I'm on staff here at Townsend Town Hall. I support the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and also work with the MVP program.
So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Margaret, for joining us. I just want to say before we go any farther that at 11 o'clock, I need to get off this call and go to another call, but Beth will be taking over as the moderator on this call. So, Margaret, we're really looking forward to hearing your ideas, to looking at the questions that you sent us, and to see how you can help us going forward. So.
Sounds good. Great. Yeah. Thank you for all the introductions. It's great to meet you all. I'm Margaret. I'm a planner at Kittleson, and I am helping technical assistance for municipalities around the state. And I've been working on since round one with cities and towns, and it sounds like you've already gone through that process. So I think before we jump into your current project ideas, I'd love to hear a little background about how the Shared Streets and Spaces program has gone so far and what you've been able to construct through that.
Jim, would you like to address that, since you were the one that put in the application for us?
Sure. Well, I hit send, but everybody on the call pretty much worked. It was a lovely project that wasn't funded, and it was lovely because it was determined it was a wonderful, what was the term, Veronica?
Placemaking.
It was a placemaking project more than something that was contemplated under the Shared Streets and Spaces program. So we have a wonderful application pending for the next grant opportunity for placemaking, but ultimately it wasn't funded. It looked at a parcel of land behind the town hall that is an open field that's used for overflow parking, and creating an athletic space and some seating and permeable parking and tenting areas for farmers market, and then connectivity between that lot and another parcel that's owned directly on the other side of the street that goes out to an old rail trestle, and having community gardens at that location and some seating and landscaping along the riverbank, and it's over the Squanicook. And again, beautiful project, just wasn't quite in the right box for that program.
And Jim, if I could jump in as well, because I remember my impressions of some of the feedback after that first application also had to do with the timeline, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when we were working through that application, we had seen Mass DOT's mention of quick build projects that could eventually become permanent. And I think we really took that to heart. And we're talking in the application about, quick build things that could become permanent later. But I think that some of the feedback mentioned that the timeline did seem ambitious. And so I think as we've been thinking about this more recent application, we seem to, as a group, be really focusing on things that really do read as quick build. And I think that will be really helpful.
That's fair. Thank you.
Beth, do you want to add anything to that? She might not have heard me. All right, so that's where we are. That was that was for the summer application process of shared streets and spaces. So we looked at winter shared streets and spaces, and we originally thought, what could we do? We were going to try to apply for the December 4th and do things like a skating rink on the common, but then we thought, well, that could be placemaking too. So maybe we should look at, we have all this wonderful open space that's very close to the center of town and certainly walkable. I think all of us walk or bike on those, at those areas. And we thought, what could we do that would get the people out? Because there are a lot more people walking and out and about in town these days, which is wonderful. So how can we build on that and get it done in the 2-month time frame? So we decided to take more time to, we did have a all-town grant meeting on January 7th, where we looked at 4 different grants. And then from that, we split out into 4 working groups. And so this one is the Shared Winter Streets and Spaces group.
That is super helpful background. Thank you for that. It sounds like hopefully you can pursue some of the placemaking opportunities through. I know there's other grant programs that are supporting that type of work. So hopefully it can all come together come spring. So yeah, I do have a lot of questions for you. And I guess maybe we could start with, overall, it seems like your goals are to create some bike connectivity, some pedestrian enhancements, and some wayfinding. That seemed like the 3 kind of broad categories of projects. I guess tell me a little bit about your goals with those projects before we delve into some of the specific locations.
Well, I'll start and then everybody else can chime in. We know that, and another thing that maybe you didn't see on the map is our elementary school is down 119 West, about a half mile from the Common. And the middle school you can get by going up Route 13. It's maybe 3/4 of a mile to a mile at the most, going up 13. Or if you go through Howard Park at the end of Howard Street, and you access it through those trails, you can actually walk up the trail and you wind up at the basketball court at the middle school following Hawthorne Brook. So there's that. So the idea was to have the signage. People in town don't know that these, how to get to these trails, or in some cases, even that they exist. So where they're walking on the streets, they could be walking in beautiful wooded areas. Or we have the rail trail under construction. You can park at the Jeff Street town lot behind Town Hall there on the corner, or you could park at the Common. And we're looking for the safe places to get people to the rail trail biking wise. Because we do have, one of the things that we have that you may not be able to see from that map, but maybe from the pictures I sent, is that a lot of our parking is like right off the street. So there's a huge paved area right along the street that the cars pull into, which is not necessarily the safest way for people that are walking or biking. So the goal is to get people to these areas, to be able to see where they are and to get them there safely. Anybody else want to jump in?
I will. So on recreation's end, we have a long-term vision and have for quite a few years, especially when we started talking outdoor fitness, to really start advocating the outdoor assets that this town has. We have a really bountiful amount of outdoor assets. Our trails are beautiful. You know, we've got the Squancook River is beautiful. We've got old landmarks that are beautiful. We've got the harbor that's beautiful. And a lot of them are not easily accessible for our families. And as Veronica said, a lot of them our families don't even know about because, again, the markings are so bad or trying to get to them is so hard. It hasn't been worth it. So when we looked at all of this and we really started talking, you know, Veronica's goal, as she said, was really to do this safely and trying to get those accesses opened. And on our long-term vision to do outdoor fitness and the health and well-being of our town as a community, bringing them all together. We have a lot of cyclists, we have a lot of runners, and we have a lot of families that are just outdoor enthusiasts. And those that weren't before the pandemic seem to be now. So opening those spaces safely for them and then being able to build later with, you know, cycling clubs and trail running clubs and family craft clubs and, you know, just hiking and walking and open areas is going to be really important, I think, to the growth and the sustainability of us as a small town community.
Do you have, I have to admit, looking at the map, it's hard for me to find where any of the trails are. I saw the Squancook River rail trail alignment, but other than that, like I can't find the walking trails on the map myself. So do you have like a trail map for the town that we could reference together in developing the wayfinding system?
Joan, maybe the MRPC map for Townsend is the best one. I know that we have a lot of Joan, you're muted, just know that. We have a lot of the trails are GPSed and there are maps for them. It's just that we don't have a town trail map other than what the Regional Planning Commission has provided for us. And a lot of us went to those meetings to get the trails on the map. Margaret, while Joan is pulling that up, I had sent you, I think, 2 maps originally. One was the center of town map that we put all the R's and X's and M's and T's on. And the other one is a bigger one that shows you the open space. I took it off of Mass Oliver.
Okay.
And if you look at that, yes, Emmy's holding it up. So if you look at it, you can see that going north from the Common, so going east from the Common, the pink area is the old Meeting House Park. The darker pink is a land trust trail system that's right next to it. And then if you go north on Route 13, that pink area, that's Howard Park. And the middle school is at the edge of Howard Park. Also, our senior center is right across from that pink area. And the library is right there. If you come back to the middle of town, I should say that the rec center that Emmy's the director of is right next to Town Hall. And if you go further west, just a little bit, the elementary school, lower elementary is there. So, and the green area, that's DCR land or Fish and Wildlife land, and lift it up a little bit, Emmy, so we can see the bottom. And the purple is land trust trails. All of this is walkable from the middle of town, and the rail trail kind of parallels Route 119 south of it.
Yeah.
So, and our bigger map, MRPC has a trail map for Townsend. You need the most recent one. And it has a lot of these trails. They've been GPSed, but to get them out to people it would be good to have these signs so people know where to go.
Yeah, that's okay. This is great. I'll have to look for the MRPC map, or if you have one on hand and can send it, that would be super helpful. For the wayfinding, I see that you have a pretty detailed list. It seems like you've already worked out kind of where you need the signs and where you want the destinations that you'd like to point people to. Mm-hmm. So what we can help with is we can develop the diagrams for those signs. And are you thinking, do you have a branding in mind, or are you thinking more of using kind of your traditional MUTCD wayfinding systems, you know, kind of the green signs that have the arrows and say where the destination is and what the distance is.
Emmy, do you want to talk to that since you're the one that's been working on signs more than me?
Sure. So I just got the information from our highway department for a couple of companies that Townsend uses. One is Permaline and the other is Custom Products Corporation. And my thought was that for our trail signs, it makes the most amount of sense to use what is traditionally used, that everybody recognizes. It's the stick figures, you know. We do, and we were talking about this a little bit, for some of our other signs, we're going to be having to work with the Historical Commission because they're where their placement is going to be in the common area in the historic district. But I think for the majority of what we're looking to put up for the wayfinding, it is going to be your standards with your mileage and the little guy on the bicycle and the, you know, the person pushing the stroller and the little runner, you know, like the very, very basic, the dog on a leash, you know, because it's recognizable internationally, and that's what we want to do. Same thing with the parking signs, bringing them to the parking. I don't know, and this is going to be, I think it's going to be a BOS and Jim call if they want to put our Townsend seal on those, any of those signs. We did want to, there are two signs that are a little bit different than what would be standard. We actually want two "You Are Here" signs, one at the common parking area and one at the Jeff Street parking area, that on that "You Are Here" sign would actually be very similar to this kind of map, and then would actually point the direction to our various areas, including like even having arrow pointing all the way down to the harbor, you know, as a point of interest. So those are a little bit different. I'm not sure where to go for those. I figured I'd talk to the contacts that the highway department. Any assistance that you have on that or recommendations, certainly I'm open to it as I sort of try and navigate some of this.
I should also mention that we just got the email this morning. Our building inspector pointed out that this is one of the historic districts in Townsend, the common area is. So the signage would need to be approved through them. So we need to look at that as well. So the question on the maps, Beth just sent me, we are working with MRPC. We have a UPWP grant for walkability and bikeability study. And they have just developed a map, and Beth sent it to me. So I don't know if I have the ability to screen share, but if Hartley, if you're there, can you set me up for screen sharing? I don't know if he's right there. He might have disabled it, but I will, what I will do then is forward this map to everybody, because Margaret, I'm the co-host now. It looks like I can. So hang on 1 minute. Let me see if I can bring this up. It's a little busy. Can you all see it, this green map?
Yep, I can see.
All right. So if you look at this, the common is right in here. And what we're trying to do is get into this trail system in here. The Dudley Road, actually, it's this trail system here because the middle school is right in there. You can see my marker. The elementary school is right here. So here's the common. There's this trail system. There's the trail system up here. This is the pink area to the right of the bigger map. Howard Park is right in here. This is a much larger trail system in the Townsend State Forest. And if you come down, there's a trail system in here. This is the land trust in the green area. I don't see the rail. Oh, the rail trail is the red piece that's right here. That's being, I think it's from here to, I'm not sure that I'll get it right on this teeny tiny map, but this is the section of the rail trail that's being developed right now and should be ready to go at the beginning of April. Joan, you can talk more to that if I'm speaking out of turn, but this is the map that Sherry Bean and MRPC has put together for the UPWP bikeability, walkability area. So I can get this out to everybody.
if I get the okay from Beth and the planning board, that it's okay to share it.
Ronnie,
So-
I also sent everyone the MRPC trailer, except not to Margaret, because I didn't have her email. Did the email come through?
Okay, I will forward that to you then, tomorrow. I'll get both of these to, it'll probably be early afternoon till I get these to you, but I will do that. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
thanks,
say
that
that
sounds
again,
good.
Joan. It's breaking
Yeah.
up on me. I think I have to. All right, so we'll get those for you to look at.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of other projects to discuss, and Veronica, you have to hop off at 11, right?
Do, yes.
But we're scheduled for another hour with this group.
Yes, and you
Okay.
can stay with them, and Beth can moderate as much as moderation there needs to be, but yeah.
Okay.
I had one question that I wanted to ask Margaret before I got off, and that was, does the grant allow for funds for engineering? We do not have a town engineer. We have we have the Parks and Cemetery superintendent, we have a highway superintendent, we have a building inspector, but we do not have a town engineer as such. We typically contract for that. Is that something that we can request in the, is that an ask that's possible in the grant? Do you know?
The way that I think towns are handling this is including you're allowed to include up to 10% contingency for design as part of your opinion of probable cost for each project. So we are typically including a 10% design contingency and then also a 10% construction contingency, just, given what we know about material sourcing right now. And then, so there's a total of, you can have up to, I think, a 30% total contingency, but that 10%, there's a cap on 10% for each component. And so what our hope is that 10% can go towards the design, but often it's typically, I would guess that it might not be enough to fully cover the engineering services. So what I can do is, and I have to admit, we're kind of going through this process right now with other towns, and including that, but they haven't gotten the grant yet, or they haven't submitted yet. So we just don't know how it's going to go once they actually do get the grant award. Do you have, for example, it looks like you're working with Weston and Sampson. Do you have a contract with them that they can do engineering work for you, or another firm that you currently have on call to do engineering work?
That, for me, that is actually a Jim question, but I can find the answer to that and get back to you. I think Jim might have hopped off. I'm not sure.
I'm still here. I'm just hiding.
Oh, okay. Can you answer that question? I don't know if you heard it.
I did. We don't currently have an on-call engineering firm procured, but we have used Weston and Sampson in the past and would expect to do so on a contract basis this time. So I don't know if that's responsive completely, but that's how we've handled things in the past.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, as long as you know that you have help that you can tap into for that. I think one thing that I can do, and this is a good prompt, is I'll reach out to, we're working with the MAPC in the Boston area, and they're collecting just a lot of data about kind of what cities and towns are doing across the Commonwealth. And I'll see if anybody over there knows of towns that are in similar situations that don't have a town engineer and how they're handling this. I guess, so it may limit the projects that you can do, because some of the projects that you're looking at would require a more extensive engineering study, plus a plan that would need to be stamped by a licensed engineer, whether it's a town, staff or somebody from a consulting firm. So just kind of thinking about all that you want to accomplish, you may need to do some paring down for your grant ask. Do you have, thinking about your implementation capacity, do you have an on-call paving contractor, or a firm that's doing contractor that's doing pavement marking and signage for you?
We do. We actually have a 3-year pavement contract that has a provision that would allow for this type of a project. We have a line painting company that we contract with as well under our Chapter 90 program. And in terms of, that we mentioned, we do have 2 companies that we regularly use on signage issues.
Okay, that's perfect. Do you know, are these companies able to kind of do work that requires more of like field engineering or field design, or do they require a stamped plan to be able to go out there and do even just painting, just doing striping, for example?
We've actually not done a lot of the striping that would require a stamp plan. We've not done a lot of the 119 stuff because that's where you would normally see it, and that's a state maintained roadway for that purpose. So no, I don't think we've got any, I think they're capable of doing it, but I don't think we have any experience actually having done that with them.
Okay. It might be, I think it would be a helpful next step for you to reach out to them and understand kind of what level of detail they need to be able to go out and do some simple striping. I'm thinking about the bike lane ideas that you have, which I want to get into talking about a bit, and the crosswalks. If you are able to stripe crosswalks and bike lanes, just really just white lines, is that something that your line striping company needs a more detailed plan, or can they kind of look at a map and have some general measurements, dimensions, and go out there and do it? I think that'll be a question that you'll want to ask them.
Excellent. We can chase that with the highway superintendent, and I'm certain he'll be able to get that information for us quickly.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So we talked about the trail, the wayfinding. I wanted to touch on one kind of point or thought that I had about that before we jump to the bike lanes and pedestrian crossings. For the trail signs, my first reaction is, well, first of all, it's very exciting. That's really great. I think that I can see what a huge benefit that would be for the town. It seems like you've got a lot of signs in mind, and it's really a full system that needs to be created. Given the short timeline of this grant application that's coming up, I think that our role as a technical assistance provider will be more around helping you figure out the quantities and the costs to ask for. I would hesitate to say that we would be able to design all of the signs for you as well, unless you really know exactly what they are. If you're able to tell us this is the sign that we need, and this is the information we need on it, then potentially within the amount of money that we have from the Bar Foundation is funding our technical assistance work, then potentially we can fit it in and actually do sign CAD. We can do diagrams that will be ready to go to the sign fabricator. But yeah, it's either there's kind of a spectrum of like work that we can do on that. The low end of the spectrum is helping you get the appropriate quantities and costs for your application. The high end of the spectrum would be actually designing the signs so that they're ready for fabrication. And that is probably a little bit more on the high end of the work that the Bar Foundation would expect us to do, but they are allowing us to do a little bit of, that would be considered more of like implementation assistance. So we can, as long as we communicate with them and make sure that they're okay with us doing that level of help, it would help you a lot. But I also would like to hear a little bit about how you wanted to approach, like what did you have in mind for designing the signs and getting them fabricated?
Yeah, so like I had said about the signs, so we're just starting that process now. When we did our walkabout to look at where we wanted everything, we designated whether it was going to be something that's a trail sign, which would have your, whether it's cycle, walk, run, pets, stroller ability, and we know for each of those areas which can do which, basically. So we already know that section of where we're going to want things. The other signs are basically pointing you in the direction you need to go. There are signs that are for the what's called a railroad sign. Those are the ones I think primarily that the Historical Commission is going to need input on, because we talked about, instead of having standard street signs, actually having them that go along with the flow of our old town, very similar to the old railroad signs, where it's posted and it has all the cross directional for the 4 or 5 different points of interest that we're looking to point at. And I think there's 3 of those. So those are kind of like our specialty signs, I guess you could say. And the idea is to have each of those parks and points of interest on that railroad sign. And then, like I said, the trail signs are to be basically our standard.
Emmy, you just went on mute.
Sorry, my phone was ringing. We are trying to point towards if we have, and we're going to be able to have those bike lanes and the bike repair station. So those would be, again, specific to which area that they're in to be pointed towards. So we kind of know signs need to go where and what needs to be on each of the signs. And then, as I said, the you are here signs, we know what we want them to look like. We need the map and we need to overlay. And maybe that's something that I work on with somebody else on the committee as well, or somebody else in this group, where we literally lay out our arrows and our colors and our legend to go with those you are here signage, and which sign we want to use for that. So I think that's kind of where we are with the signs. And if it's a matter of me getting you just some more detailed information and connecting with the Historical Society and you together to come up with something, I'm not quite sure where or what I should be sending off to you and when.
Yeah, I think hearing about the specialty signs, that does seem like it has some more design, like you do need to design them. And I would hesitate to say that we can do that. I think our role for those signs would be more to help you figure out how much money to ask for, and then that you go through the process that you need to design them, especially because you need approvals from various committees that I don't know if you'll be able to get in time by the 26th. And then for all of the kind of more classic green, wayfinding signs, I think, yeah, with more detailed information, and you already have quite a bit of detailed information, we can look at those. Once we get a clear understanding of the total number, first we'll want to understand the total number and kind of like the size of the sign based on the number of destinations. That'll help us develop the, opinion of probable cost for your grant application. And then from there, I think we still need to figure out, are we able to have enough funding to actually cover the design of those signs? And of course, we would want to do that in a timely way so that you can decide how you want to proceed with that. The signs don't need to necessarily be designed for you to get the grant. You just need to know, MassDOT just needs to know that you will be able to get it done. But we would like to help you as much as we can within the constraints of this technical assistance.
Maybe that's what I do with the contacts that Highway gave me for the signs, and I'm sure Jim has those as well, is to sort of pop our ideas over to them and see what they give us, because they're typically it's a pretty good quick turnaround for their general ideas when you kind of call and be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and sort of see what they come up with that we can incorporate. And then by Monday, if I can send some information, I guess, over to you on what we've managed to gather, what we're looking at for quantities, and it's going to be a matter too, I think, of talking with the Jones and Jen and Veronica additionally, and whomever else, about that exact wording. And again, I think we're really just we're not going for super complicated. We're going for Old Meeting House Park with an arrow, or Howard Park with an arrow. We're not looking for a lot of, we just need to make sure that the arrows are pointing in the right direction for the right signs.
Yeah. MassDOT recently came out with, well, actually, I don't know if it's published yet, so I need to see if it's actually available online, but I know they're in the process of publishing a bike wayfinding guide, like an entire guidance document on how accessing trails. So I will see if that's available online for your highway department to consult as well. Let's I guess move on to the bike lanes and the pedestrian crossings. So looking at your list that Veronica sent over,
And that's, do you want me to share this map?
yeah, that would be great. I'm trying to pull up. I had a version of the PDF that Veronica sent that I had put some questions
hey,
and comments on.
Hartley, can I share my screen? I'm able to pull that up.
Actually, would we be able to look, maybe I could pull up Google Maps and we could look at the aerial together and look at the specific streets you're interested in? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
And again, I don't know, Hartley, are you there? Are you able to open share screen for us as a whole body? Great. Yeah. So if you wanted to do that, Margaret, it looks like Hartley said that you can go ahead and just share screen once you pull up what you've got or what you want us to do.
Okay. I'm going to pull up, let me know when you can see Google Maps.
Looks good.
Okay. So on my other screen, I'm looking at the list that Veronica sent over for bike lanes. So there were 5 bike lanes listed. The first one was from Highland Street from the Common. So from over here to Bow Street, potentially even to Old Meeting House Road. So this street is pretty narrow. It looks like it's about 26 feet wide, just based on a quick measurement. That would mean, so I guess a question for you, what are you envisioning in terms of bike lanes on Highland Street? Tell me a little bit more about what you would like to see there.
So what we had is, if you come for our bike lane, if you come out of Bow Street, you're only on Highland down that small point and down onto what on your map is Brookline Street. Mm-hmm. And that drops to the Common. So that's that section of the bike street and bike path, and it goes all the way down Bow Street to 119.
Okay. I saw, let's see.
And then eventually, yeah, it'd be great to have it up Highland, but that's not on this portion. The portion that we have currently is just, it's kind of like this.
Just this piece. Okay.
This piece right here. Sorry, I'm off of 2 different screens.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm looking at the map that Veronica sent on my other screen. So yeah, so just this segment here.
Yeah, it's just,
okay.
Yeah, it's that segment from Bow Street and that, from Bow Street and then just down towards Brookline, and that Brookline is sides the Common.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, and we're looking for a crosswalk at that area coming down. Yeah, towards the top of the Common, a crosswalk right there, because there is a sidewalk on that area as well. We're kind of looking to get there so that we can get people to the Common where the parking is. That's sort of that. And that's sort of where, Joan, that's right. Sort of the thought, Joan W. on the bike lanes was trying to get people to the trails and to the parking, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Joan's she's our bigger cyclist, like more cyclist in this area. She knows the roads pretty well comparatively to, I run them, I don't cycle them. Mm-hmm. So I'm not as familiar, but yeah, so I know Bow Street's pretty narrow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
However, we're looking at safety. And the reason we didn't go all the way up Brookline instead from that crosswalk that's on 119 mm-hmm. is because on this corner of Brookline down here, Honeyland Farms, if you go down the bottom, where Honeyland Farms is, mm-hmm. that parking lot becomes a cut through for people. And they just, cars backing up straight onto 119, people just jumping from Main Street straight Main Street. So we can't safely put anything there because cars, there's no way to stop that. Honestly, it's been for 30 years, that's been happening. So trying to put a bike lane from on that direction, on that side, it looks like it would be a liability just waiting to happen.
Some of these streets are one way, like Bow Street is one way northbound, right? So, are you thinking about potentially creating contraflow bike lanes so that essentially somebody who's biking can go in both directions on the street?
Joan?
That's pretty wide, isn't it?
Bow Street, that is?
No, to have two directions.
Let me pull up hang on. Let me pull up an example that another town did. Because what I'm noticing is you have a number of one-way streets that are very narrow when it comes to creating bike lanes. Well, I guess I should rephrase. You have a lot of, it's very narrow for two-way traffic, so it's obviously one way, but then there's a lot of excess pavement when you think about traffic only going in one direction, which could increase speeds. I don't know if you have speeding problems on any of these streets.
No, not really.
Okay, that's good to hear. And so you could do a one-way bike lane along these streets following the street direction, but another option that could be helpful for bike connectivity, especially getting people down to the trail and allowing cyclists to kind of use any street to do that, might be to create a contraflow bike lane. Hang on, I'm just pulling up a presentation from another town. And what that would look like is people biking would be able to come down the wrong way, but they could also go up, the right way as well. And that creates, it takes up some of that excess pavement. And I'll show you. Let's see. I need to pause my. Let's see. New share.
So if we're able to do that one way on Jeff Street too, Joan and Jen, that would be the same sort of situation we'd be looking at the other end on Jeff Street, because it's not currently a one way, but the Veronica's in conversation to try and get half of that street also from Town Hall down to 13, also one way. So it'd be sort of the same. It's almost like the direct opposite side of where we're looking at right now. Would be that same sort of thing.
Depot Street as well would be one way.
Yeah, there's also one.
Are you currently seeing Google Maps, or are you seeing a PowerPoint that I'm attempting to show?
Google Maps.
Okay, I think I need to.
I have a technical question, if I may. How do you get a brand new, beautiful bike lane onto a street that is so full of potholes and falling apart?
Duct tape.
Yep, I thought so.
Yeah, the pavement quality will be just a challenge because I don't think the grant can cover repaving, at least for long stretches, but you can certainly do the striping for the bike lane. Are you able to see the, I'm trying to show you an image right now from Sterling.
Yeah, we got it.
So this is actually, looking at your one-way streets, I immediately thought of this project that Sterling did for their summer round of the grant application. And you can see this is a pretty wide one-way street. And what they've done is they've created a contraflow bike lane so that people biking can come up against traffic but have a buffer. And then people who are going with the usual direction of traffic, they can use that street. And then because the pavement width is visually a little bit narrower here, it does make it feel a little safer for the person who's biking, in the road without a bike lane, because there's a little bit of that traffic calming effect. So that's what I mean by what a contraflow bike lane might look like. I'm seeing Bow Street, Jeff Street. Let's see. Yeah, Jeff Street is also, you mentioned making it one way. It looks like it's one way.
It's not.
I don't know if that's correct.
It used to be way back in the early 19th century, but it's not now. It's actually two-way. However, if you're looking at Google Maps, where you see, if you're coming down from Riverbank Terrace, the idea is to actually back up where there's a little bit of a Y at Riverbank Terrace at Jeff Street. So go down. Yeah, we're looking to start, she wants to start making it basically, I think, I think it's a look from there. She's looking to make it one way out. Is that correct, Joan? Or Jen, is that what we were talking about for Jeff Street from the Riverbank Terrace, that section in between where it says Riverbank Terrace twice? Or was she wanting to do it one way from the parking area at Jeff Street?
I honestly don't know.
Jen, do you remember? Or Joan S? It was one or the two. It was either at the parking area at Townsend Town Hall, or it was at the Jeff Street parking, this big sand lot kind of you see next to Quanticook River.
Yeah.
And it one way from 13 so that you can't turn in from 13 onto Jeff Street.
Yeah.
That would only be traffic going out onto Route 13 from Jeff Street.
I see. Yeah.
Because it is narrow in that area, and Town Hall, obviously you can see that, and then we've got this empty area behind it. This is Town Halls. This big empty lot is Town Halls as well, and then the parking is Town Halls. So I think the idea was trying to, and we've been talking about this for years, not just for this purpose, but just safety coming in and out. It's not safe, but that would open it up for a double bike lane there as well.
Yeah, both. So Jeff Street, if you do that conversion, that could work well for a contraflow bike lane. I'm also seeing Depot Street. Is Depot Street actually one way as it's indicated here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, of course, we could always, you can stripe bike lanes going in the direction of traffic, and that's fine too. Though I do find the idea intriguing of creating, like, you basically get double the connectivity for people biking, and it ends up being safer for people driving too because of the visual narrowing of the pavement. So that's something I'd offer for you to consider.
Margaret, that example that you showed from Sterling was a great reference. Do you know if that is available online as a case study, or if you'd be able to share those slides so we can keep referring to it as we develop this application?
Yes, I will send you the I'll send you this is a presentation that I did, but I'll send you the slides, and the photos are actually Allison Burson from the Solomon Foundation took those photos. They're online. They're on the Flickr account. Adria, do you know about the Flickr account that's like all these municipalities are kind of adding to it? An MAPC?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'll have to send you a link later. I don't know if I have your email address, but maybe you're on the email chain. There is, there's kind of a whole photo repository.
Fantastic. I will put my email address in the chat just in case, and I think I should also be on that email chain. Thank you so much. These are great references.
Yeah, absolutely.
Margaret,
Thanks, Margaret. You'll send that to us all?
Yep, I'll send it to you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Margaret, if you'd like to put it in the chat, you can as well.
Okay. Let's see. I don't know if I can. How do I do that? I'll email it out to you after this call. So that's, I think, something that I'd like to get your feedback on. I mean, I think bike lanes are absolutely doable, and we just need to ask for the right quantity, essentially, of paint for you to, put in your grant application. We can create a concept diagram that just kind of shows high level where the striping would go. Not to the level of detail of what your striping, contractor needs, but what would be appropriate for the grant application. Once we have a sense of, do we want it to be a contraflow bike lane or a, regular going in the direction of traffic bike lane?
Can I just throw out here, Veronica actually missed, and she mentioned it before you had gotten on the call. The bike lane, she missed putting the one that goes from Howard Street down to 119 along Highland. So,
Street.
Yeah, so right here.
Where is Howard Street?
So it's behind Evans on the Common. If you see where it says Evans on the Common.
Here, Howard Street, this one.
Right. So if you want to go from Howard Street, it's going to go to Highlands towards Main Street. So you're going on the screen, you're heading towards your left.
Okay, so this is a bike lane. Unfortunately, I can't see very much in Street View. Google has not done enough trips in Townsend. It would be this street right here.
No, it's the one on the other side of it.
Oh, this one right here.
Yeah, and they want to go up that street right there. Yeah, where you're pointing right now. And that's That's a one-way from the church back to
Oh,
119.
Highland Street. Oh, I see. Highland Street to Main Street. Gotcha.
To Main Street. Yeah, that's where we're looking to go. That also is a bike lane because we're putting that crosswalk at the end of it on Main Street. Again, to try to get back, because we have sidewalks there, to get us back over to Riverbank Terrace and down to the parking at Jeff Street and at Town Hall.
Gotcha. Okay.
Emmy, I seem to remember School Street was discussed too for a bike lane.
Yeah, it is on that as well. Yeah, it is. It is on that as well with School Street, and that was to Route 13 at the top, going towards the middle school.
Oh, okay.
So again, trying to get bikes off of Route 13. So if you, Margaret, if you go to Evans on the Common again and you take School Street and you head north, the idea is to go up there and take that, keep going around the corner, and you're going to end up right there back onto Route 13.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just because the idea behind that is because the massive amounts of congestion at the corner of Highland Street and the Common, it gets dangerous to get around that corner and onto 13. So, and it's congested with the house, the church, etc. So the idea was to pull the bike lane up School Street instead, and then pop it back out on 13 where visibility is better and it's not nearly as congested with traffic. It's just straight line traffic to the school and the police department.
Okay. So there's I saw that on the map that Veronica sent, but then it wasn't in her list. So I'll add that to my notes. For all of these, I guess in general, what I'll be the feedback that I'm looking for you on all of these is, if you want it to go in the direction of traffic with a white stripe, or if you want it to go, if you want to provide a contraflow bike lane with the understanding of course, that cyclists can continue in the other direction as well. The reason why I think that's going to be a big consideration for all of these streets is that most of them are, if the two-way streets, because School Street is two-way, right?
Yes.
Okay. School Street is two-way, and it's a little bit too narrow to have bike lanes on both sides. If you had bike lanes on both sides, your travel lanes would have to go down to a 9-foot travel lane, which is fine for a residential street. But that also means your bike lanes would have to be like about 4 feet. So like a little bit narrower than standard. And if you're okay with that, then, you can, I think for this type of context, it's okay to have a narrow bike lane and a narrow travel lane. But yeah, we would be looking for feedback from you on if that's kind of what you want to create, or if you would like to create more of like a for School Street it wouldn't be contraflow. So there was, when I looked at all of these streets, the thing that immediately came to mind, but which unfortunately can't be done easily for this grant application, is I don't know if you've heard of something called an advisory shoulder, or it's called a dashed bike lane. It's a treatment that is really more appropriate for rural towns where there's narrow streets and people are there's not necessarily high volumes of traffic on some of these, kind of narrower rural streets. And so instead of striping a bike lane that would be narrow for people biking and narrow for people driving, you stripe dash lines, and people kind of yield to each other within that space. But unfortunately, it's a treatment that is, I don't want to go too much off this tangent, but it's a treatment that's experimental only in the U.S. right now. It's used abroad, and to do it, you have to request experimentation from the FHWA. So that's when I looked at these, I was like, oh, this would be perfect for advisory shoulders. Small town is perfect, but it wouldn't work out for this timeline. But I wanted to let you know that is something that we're trying to explore more and more in the U.S.
Margaret, do you have a picture of that you could get us at some point, please?
Yep, I'll send you a rural and small town design resource that pictures that.
And Margaret, I wonder, do you know if there are any opportunities for sort of advocacy or from folks in town to sort of say to whatever agency is figuring out if this can be more than just experimental in the US, to say, hey, we think this would be a really great option for towns like us and would like to voice that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think the more that an agency like the FHWA gets these requests to experiment, the more, I mean, we just need towns to go and do that and do the experimentation. But of course, it's like a capacity issue becomes difficult because you have to collect the data and like show that you are kind of testing the before and after and looking at the effectiveness of it. So yeah, hopefully over time we can see more of these treatments, especially in, places like this where your big city kind of treatments may not always be appropriate.
Right. This was really appealing to me because we're just not the most sophisticated bicycling community, I don't think, and the contraflow might just seems a little bit complicated. And another probably issue that I would raise is many of our streets still have some informal parking.
Mm-hmm.
How does that tend to work in towns that do something like the contraflow?
Well, we would obviously look for the presence of driveways, which there do appear to be a lot of driveways here. If there aren't driveways, then we would, be less like, and if there was a lot of multifamily housing, then that's where kind of you have a, red flag of, is there going to be a lot of opposition from people who are parking on the street? For this type of situation, seeing that there is a lot of space for people to park on their own property, I think that the town would just need to,
reclaim our road.
Yeah, exactly. Claim the public right of way that you do own.
Here's an example, for example, down on Depot Street, which we looked at, which is one way.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a business down there, a florist, and the only place to park is on the road in front of the store, the shop. The shop is in a house. It's kind of informal.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the Bloomery Florist is what she's saying. The Bloomery Florist up there. It's in its own house. It's got a little bit of parking next to it. People tend to just pull up in the street right in front and just, sit about there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And again, you don't want to, cause trouble for their business, but they do have a drive.
Right. I think, that's tough. This is not a great answer, but one would hope that if there's not a huge volume of people who are biking down the street and there's not a lot of conflicting vehicle traffic, that if there was a person parked in the bike lane, that it would be okay from a safety perspective because, you wouldn't have conflicts and like a person biking could just go around it. It's, it's not really the ideal situation, but it does bring me to the question of how are you approaching like community engagement and abutter outreach?
So we talked about that a little bit. So it's going to be a part of a couple of different board meetings from a couple of different groups, including ours, the Planning Board, the Board of Selectmen. So it brings to the public. Also, because I'm recreation and this is a part of our longer range vision and something that we've already been talking about, outdoor fitness, etc. We'll be doing a lot of social media flyer posting, just sort of saying like, hey, did you know this is what bicycling, cycling, running, safer, strollers, sort of really getting that idea of the vision of it out to the public. Also, we talked something more informational, and then we talked about as well over February vacation, we're going to do some walkabouts with some of the various groups to open to the public, free, to get people to know where these places are so that we can better address why we're trying to get there from the various places in town, I guess. And it's sort of like almost a passive way to engage them in the vision without directly saying, well, we're going to stick a bike lane here because it's exactly going to go there. We're trying to get it from the other end, from the trails backwards, I guess, in that way. So that's some of what we're doing. Like I said, getting it out to the boards is going to be in public meetings is going to be really important. And then the engagement through recreation, the library, which has a lot of flow of online traffic, and a few of the other, we have some, quite a few running groups online as well in this area to put that out, because those kind of niche groups as well, beyond the school et cetera, are going to be important to hear this information and to put their feedback in. Because the bike lanes, by creating bike lanes, it actually does that sort of subverses like slow down of traffic, which actually helps runners as well and people with strollers. So it kind of all the way around creates a benefit. And I don't think it's not something that's on the collective brain. So trying to get it there by doing some fun things attached to it, I think is going to be important in the next week or so. Is there anything else that we should be or could be looking at?
I think that all sounds good. I mean, we're asking the question more so to help you think through your process, and clearly you already have done that, so that's great. I had sent over questions to Veronica that were kind of like looking at your ability to implement and do some of the things that you need to do to work through your town processes. So that's, the reason I'm asking. But yeah, that all sounds great. And I think the message that bike lanes can help people who aren't biking, they can really help multiple users of the roadway is a really good one. So I guess, so we've got, so just to kind of wrap up the discussion about bike lanes, I will send you over the resources that I mentioned and that presentation. And then I think the next step is to hear from you kind of where you're thinking of going with these. And then for the pedestrian crossings, let's talk about those next. Is everybody ready to move on to pedestrian crossings?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the one that is, I think, the trickiest. So a question that I had sent over to Veronica in advance was, have you done any engineering studies at any of the locations where you're looking for a crosswalk? There's about 6 or so different locations that you'd like to add a crosswalk and also an RRFB.
Jim, are you still on the call?
I don't see him on the call, but he did say that there were no engineering studies, if I recall correctly, when he was asked that earlier.
I think the only thing, the closest thing we have is there's some like flow studies that Complete Streets did that, Joan, I think you might have some of that too. I think that some of that might have been done when we did Complete Streets, but I'm not sure. Jim did send it out, I think, so that we can maybe take a look at it. And I know that a lot of... You haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen the complete. No. You were on the committee. You said there were some flow studies.
Yeah, I think there was some flow studies done because we did a lot of what we talked about with Complete Streets obviously has to do with the safety of using those streets and everybody being able to use them, right? And around this area especially, again, we were focusing on how do you get to the schools? How do you get to the trails? How do you get to the, to the town hall, walking, and what are the safety of the curbs? So a lot of that was done. I'm not sure how complete it is or what it looks like. I didn't get that, but Jim does have it. So maybe we can, if only Veronica got it maybe, or maybe we didn't get it yet, but we can try and get that for that. And the two I do want to point out that Veronica made sure to point out with us, Margaret, is the two that are on either side of the common, because there's already the handicap or dips in the sidewalk in those two areas. There's already like the sidewalks on each side. Yeah, it already has the lowered ramps on either side that we want to put them.
Where are those?
So,
here.
There's one right there, and on the other side of the street, same thing.
Okay. It would be helpful to see the Complete Streets flow study.
I'll see what I can get from Jim, and maybe we can just send the whole thing over to you. Okay.
I think, I guess I'm going to be the bearer of bad news for your crosswalks. And this is, it's frustrating as a person who wants to see more crosswalks in the world to have to say this, but we wouldn't be able to recommend crosswalks at places where there hasn't been a study, at least a safety study done to look at, there's a couple things. The first is whether or not there's sufficient sight distance. If you put a crosswalk down where there isn't one today, you would need an engineer to go out and say, okay, if somebody's standing here and somebody's driving around this corner, are they able to see a person who's standing at that ramp? Is somebody, driving from this direction also able to see them? And you have to check it for a person standing at both sides of that potential crosswalk. That's something that's obviously difficult to do, from a map. It kind of does require somebody going out in the field to do that. So that's the first thing that's needed. The second thing is, if there is crash data, if you have crash data that shows that you've had pedestrian crashes, that can be helpful for saying that it's a good place to mark a crosswalk. Again, you have to make sure that you fulfill the sight distance requirements. Now I'm acknowledging, though, that the crash data, often crashes go unreported or they're near misses, so it's incomplete. And then the final thing that I would say is important, but not as important as the safety, the sight distance, is traffic volumes and pedestrian volumes. Having an understanding of how many people are crossing either today, or if you have some sense of what the latent demand is. You may not have people crossing at that location because there's not a crosswalk today. So, how can you go out and count them? This is kind of a chicken and egg question. But there are ways to kind of get around that by looking at desire lines and understanding, there's a church here and there's a, popular area here. And so you can kind of work around that. But you do need to have some baseline data to start with. So I'm going to guess, and I'm going to stop after this next statement, I'm going to guess you probably don't have a lot of that data, which would make it difficult to put crosswalks in without a study. But I'll stop there and see if, am I wrong? Do you have things that I don't know about?
I guess we'll be, Beth, maybe connecting with Jim on anything that we might possibly have for that area, even when they put in the sidewalk from the highway department, or, because we have crosswalks further up Brookline Street there, and there are other crosswalks. How did they put those in? There had to have been something.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk site study, a couple of our sidewalk or crosswalks absolutely should not be where they are. There is no visibility. So maybe they didn't do a study. Maybe they just slapped it down. I don't know. But there had to have been at some point, because we do have crosswalks in that area. Not necessarily good ones, and kind of weird ones, actually. Like this one that goes across up Bow Street. That is such a, you've got to go, it's a mess.
Yeah,
you got to cross, and then you've got to go here, and then there's that weird triangle, and you've actually got traffic going in 6 different directions right there. It's awful. You got 2 there, you've got these 2 here, and the other 2 on the other side. It's awful. So that's a bit of a hot mess right there. And then you got to cross the church parking lot when people are going in and out there to try and get to the common.
Yeah,
it's
right. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, it's horrifying. So, like I said, Beth, maybe you could check with Jim and see if there's any of those other outlets that had to have been at some point in time. Something's got to be somewhere, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we do have the Townsend Complete Streets application from 2018. I just got that from Adria. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
So that is something we can look through. Of course, not right now, but I mean, I do have something called a Tier 3 Exhibit C and END punch list. Is anybody familiar with the Complete Streets program?
Just to like I said, I was on the committee, and it was really about identifying our danger zones and hot zones, and very similar to what we're trying to accomplish here, except it's a longer term project, some bigger things. But a lot of what's on the Complete Streets are, again, very directionally in this vision of making Townsend more accessible, walkers, runners, schools, commerce, etc. And the roads accessible to, again, ADA and compliance, where we can be strollers, runners, cyclists, any and all, school children to the elderly, you know, making all of that a little bit easier. So there should be from on that punch list, there should be stuff for that corner where Bow Street is. There should also be stuff on that, on Brookline Street. There should be some, I think there might even be some having to do with School Street. And I'm not sure if we might have done some stuff for Riverbank Terrace, but I can't remember if it was just dealing with the parking or if we just didn't because that was a town hall situation. But definitely something to look at maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful. If you have, if there were studies that were done as part of the Complete Streets application, then building off those would be great. I would also say and I recognize this is tough, you know, just like finding funding to even do the studies, but there is going to be an additional, I wouldn't call it an additional round of funding for this, but the state is going to open another grant program along the similar lines of this with the transportation bond bill that was recently passed. So there's going to be more opportunities to apply for these types of improvements. And so thinking ahead, you may just want to plant the seed that if you are able to do some planning and engineering studies kind of in advance, then once those grant opportunities come up, you'll be positioned.
So maybe with this crosswalk, depending on what we can find for studies or information that we currently have, it may be something that we push for with this grant instead for the signage and the bike lanes, sidewalk repair in that couple of places, because I think that was part of what we had talked about originally, if that was on there.
Oh, you're on mute, Emmy. Okay, you're back.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my children don't listen to me. I'm like, don't call me between 10 and noon. But, you know, I know they don't need anything. They just want to talk. What I was saying was that it makes more sense to try and get those studies or cobble together all of what we've got, find out where our holes are, and then work the crosswalks, because the crosswalks are integral to doing this, especially the one that goes across 13 at Elm Street there, across from the fire department. That's going to be really important, having the flashy lighting and making sure we do that. That's going to be really important, I think. 13 down where Cobblestone Quilts are, if you go down 119 and hook a left down by Jeff Street. Yeah.
Oh, that's the location where the trail is coming in, right?
Yes. That's where we're going to be crossing over for that.
Okay. Yes. I wanted to ask about that. So as part of the planning for the trail, was a crosswalk recommended and already designed? Is there something you can just piggyback off of?
Joan? Oh, you're muted.
I can answer that. We did have an engineering study done for the rail trail, but the suggestion was not made to go up to 13 as a way to access it. The recommendation was made to access through Depot Street. Another thing, that last little section of rail trail, we are not building right now. So it's stopping at Depot Street and it is not continuing to Route 13.
But that is where you were interested in having a bike lane kind of behind the auto?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Usually a bike lane.
And then that actually going across the street, Jeff Street, through that parking, that goes to the Trestle and Adams Dam and all the trail network behind there. And then there eventually will be the Squanicook River Rail Trail that way also.
Coming
so again,
this way?
It's kind of a bigger vision situation to start linking those all up, because Joan, that part they weren't building yet. It was going all the other direction on 119 or across down 119 instead.
Is it this little, I see this, it looks like there's some right of way here. Is this where you're thinking about having that bike lane? Do you own the land?
We own the land, yes.
Okay.
We have not really we've not contacted abutters. We've not done anything in that area yet, but it's a very nice trail.
And it's paved?
A part of it is paved. I think maybe the abutter did it.
Okay.
Encroachment.
Okay.
The abutter is a business. We don't know about it. We just haven't really crossed that yet.
Okay. I think for this, this is a good reminder because I did want to ask about this bike lane piece. If it's not fully paved, I don't think you'll be able to obviously stripe it, but you could at least make sure you have wayfinding signs directing people through here. And then if you do stripe it, a bike lane or a paved part of it at some point, I would recommend doing basically like simulating a shared use path with the striping. You'd want to have two edge lines and maybe even like a center line, and make it clear that this is a space for people, not only people biking, but also walking, like create a shared use path environment back here as an extension of your rail trail.
Well, I'm not, you mean in order to create a safe route from cars?
To create an extension of the rail trail, because your rail trail will be coming right through here, and then it'll continue through here. And what you want is for this block to basically have the same width, feel, but perhaps with different materials.
It probably, right now, it pretty much does.
Yeah. Okay.
3/3 of it is paved, and the other third is like a stone dust surface. I think it's kind of trouble-free as a surface right now.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe that's more of a signage situation then.
I have a hypothetical question, please. So, the high school students now, I see them pouring out of the high school, which is way down the other end of town, but not that far from the rail trail, right? I see them pouring out of the high school in the afternoon going into the shopping plaza. Aren't they now, when the rail trail gets nearer and to them, aren't they going to want to maybe spill out and hit the trail with their bikes? So we really need to think about some crossing there, or is that something to consider down the road?
That's actually part of, I think we're talking about it for the Mass Trails for next year and for TIP for the long term, because we're talking about a full-on pedestrian walkway, cycling walkway that goes across that up and over even to deal with that corner. So that'll actually, to get people, again, it's about that safety piece, getting them to that trail so that they can then ride the trail all the way to the center of town.
Right.
Is the goal, right? So so that is on two of the other grants that we've been talking about, the longer term grants. Okay. And maybe some of the stuff we talked with Margaret about when we were talking about crosswalks and stuff, that becomes a piece of one of those, maybe even. Or if another grant comes up, as she was saying, with transportation, that becomes we can roll some of that in there.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So, this is helpful to hear about that piece back there. I think in terms of the ped crossing issue, again, it's a similar issue as all the other places where you don't have a marked crossing. If there's currently no control, and then we also don't have, there's no traffic signal or no stop sign or anything for the main road, then it's difficult to put a crosswalk without a safety study. But I think a trail connection kind of presents a no-brainer. You're going to stripe this crosswalk one day. You just know you will. So it's part of it is just, having to follow that protocol of doing that safety study, just so that you can put in what you need to do. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. But I wanted to mention you wanted to put a crosswalk across 119 at Depot Street, right, with an RRFB. That was on the list. Similar situation in terms of lack of control here. We wouldn't be able to at this time recommend a crosswalk, but you've got several crosswalks. So I'm wondering if you can just ask for an RFB to be installed at one of these other ones that are downstream. Is there a location that people are having particular difficulty crossing right now?
Well, so see, again, we're looking for Depot Street, not having to walk and go across, everybody pulling in and out of that mobile gas station. That's where the dilemma comes in, because across the street, you've got passive businesses, but trying to get to that crosswalk currently is now you're in the gas station, and because it's wide open, people sometimes pull into the gas station at that parking. Sometimes they actually pull across and cut across Depot Street and pull in like across the front of the parking. Sometimes they pull down Depot Street and then scooch into the back of the parking where it says ATM Mr. Mike's Mini Mart. So that again is trying to get around that to that crosswalk is why the crosswalk doesn't get used. So it's completely wasted. Whereas if we came across from the one way at Depot, we could connect up to the sidewalk there, and it's just a short turn to get onto Bow Street, where we then have bike paths that again are creating that safety for runners, bikers, and strollers, etc.
Yeah, I 100% hear you on that. It is a dilemma. I mean, I would agree. It makes sense to have people cross here so that they don't have to go past this environment. You said that MassDOT controls 119?
They do.
Okay.
And I know Jim did get all that information from Groton that you were asking for or about.
Okay. Okay.
So again, I think it's just a matter of getting that to you. Mm-hmm. Because they did share their studies about it, and they did say that 119 for crosswalks like that, they don't tend to be really they don't seem to have a real hard on about them. Like they seem to be a little bit easier about that sort of thing than if you were trying to put sidewalks on. They seem to be easier with crosswalks than they are with a sidewalk. So
right.
So you did not get that yet, the Groton study either, Margaret?
I don't think I've seen it come in, but I haven't had a chance to check my email. I will take a look. I will look for that.
Beth, do you have it? Beth? Oh.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So do you have that study from Groton about the crosswalks too?
Yes, I believe so. I was sent something from Jim. I think it's, yeah.
Okay. Yep. So can you send that along with the complete streets to Margaret?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for sending those. Yeah, I mean, this is a dilemma. Obviously, you don't want somebody walking across here. I mean, there is a chance that you could. This lane is really wide. Like you could create a kind of. Actually, let me go back into the presentation that showed Sterling. Another thing that they did was they just created like a kind of walkway area with flex posts along the side of the road because they didn't have a sidewalk.
Right.
It's a little bit of a different context because it's not alongside a gas station, but that could be a short term, type of treatment you could do that you wouldn't have to do a crosswalk study. You could just install it along this section to help people walking get down to that crosswalk. And obviously, you take it out once you have a more permanent solution for this intersection. I don't know if that's something that is of interest for you. It does require coordination with the MassDOT district to get an access permit.
Okay.
Yeah. So, interim type of solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll bring that up at our next meeting.
Okay.
Because like I said, that and the Honeyland Farms, that's where where honestly, those are the two spaces that create the most amount of pedestrian and cyclist danger, I think, for what we're looking at on this side, for coming from the harbor and from that side of town into the common areas where we're again looking to enter the trails and all that other stuff. Those two segments are just deadly. I mean, they're so dangerous. And so we're trying to get around those because again, you've got the crosswalk right on the corner of that. That is not helpful. Like it's not, because trying to go across this, there's a post right on that corner, trying to go across that where you've got cars coming in behind you and in front of you from both lanes of traffic coming in 3 different directions it's
unnerving.
Horribly dangerous.
And this is really, really wide here.
Hugely wide.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, so some communities are doing kind of really short-term curb extensions just with paint. Like they're just painting out the corners so that the corners look wider, almost like it's a curb extension. but not actually building anything to kind of narrow the field so that when people are pulling around, they're actually trying to stay clear of the paint and come in. That could be an option for these two corners as like a quick build type of measure.
All right, make a note on that. I can bring that using paint.
Yeah. There's some photos. I'll send the Flickr page, but there's some examples of, I think Salem did this, Somerville did this. I mean, you know, not necessarily, I think it can be appropriate in this kind of town center context. I
Have
mean,
you tried to direct cars to a specific area, or does that just warn the cars that you're going across a walking path?
yeah, it's more to let people know as they're making this turn that they need to slow down so that they don't take a wide turn through here. And with a fast speed, they need to slow down a little bit to make a sharper turn. Same as here, when you're coming out, you'd have to make a sharper turn around that paint. Of course, you know, you can drive over it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's to slow down the cars and to increase the space that pedestrians have to wait. If you put some flex posts or something like that to add a little protection, then it can be something that becomes a standing area, and it kind of serves both of those purposes. For this spot here,
Yeah, can we put up flex post there and only leave their actual driveway entrance open? Because what you have is extremely low curbs, so low that they might as well not even
people
be
just
there.
drive over it.
Yeah, they just go right over. See that?
Yeah, I mean, because this is I assume, I mean, without looking at the parcel map, I can't tell, but this is city or town owned right of way, right? This is the sidewalk.
Yeah.
The continuation of the sidewalk. You could delineate it with flex posts so that it's like making it very clear this is a walkway and you can't go through it. Let's see, what does it look like on the other side?
That Joan.
I like it.
And Beth.
I want to see how long they stay upright.
Well,
Yeah, they may get knocked over. Let's see. I can't, well, the parcel, it's not very helpful here but yeah, I mean, we
There's
can't
all
see
that.
that. Yeah, we can't see the edge of the parcel.
It's at least it's 16 feet back, right? Or 16 feet front that's the town easement on all property is 16 feet. Does anybody know that?
I don't.
So I
think
I'm sorry. I thought
I'm going to have to interrupt here as the meeting moderator. We are at 12 o'clock, and we would like to wrap this up for those of us that have to go ahead and just wrap things up here.
Yeah.
And I just have to ask, Emmy, you had talked about a document, and you talked about two documents that you wanted me to forward. What were they again?
The complete streets and the Groton study to Margaret, since you have your hands on both of them and I do not.
I did look through my files, and I can't find anything on, you said intersection studies for Groton. What are you referring to?
No, it was Jim got the information from Groton about their crosswalks and the engineering and whatever they used for those. So I think Margaret was looking for that kind of information.
Okay, if you could send me the document title that you're looking for, because I could not find that with a quick look through my email. So I don't know exactly what you're looking for there, but you could just send that to me. But I do have.
Oh yeah, you might not have been on.
I have the Complete Streets 2018 application that I can forward.
Okay.
But yeah, I would like to go ahead and wrap it up if you have any more questions, but it is 12 o'clock, so please go ahead and finalize your comments and questions.
I don't have anything else, but this was really helpful. We'll just be in touch over email, and I'll send over the things I mentioned and get things from you, and then we'll take it all along the next steps.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Work on my stuff. All right. Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.